All right, everybody, welcome to Variant Roundtable, episode 3 on Twitter Spaces exclusively. This week, we are going to be talking about poll data and a lot of questions that you, the community, have voted on. And as we welcome more and more claws and variants to join us and talk, we can have this discussion as always. Pardon me. Variant Roundtable is a community-driven program here, or show, or whatever we're going to call it. It's not really a podcast. This is an open forum. So if you're interested in talking about Deadrop or have any input or questions or anything conversing about Deadrop, the upcoming Snapshot 6, whatever it is, everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome to come and speak and have your voices heard. And to get things started off again, we're going to talk. I put out a bunch of poll questions this past week, and everyone's been really supportive of those polls and voting on them. So there's actually a lot to cover, which is really cool. So real quick, I'll go over the questions. I think there's 4 of these, and then we'll talk about the results and what people are saying about it. So the first question was, we have Brandon, welcome in. Appreciate you being here. Feel free to request to speak at any point. I will, first, I'm going to go ahead and go through these questions, just what were the questions, and then I can start talking about the results on them. So the first question was, scenario, a player can kill you in Deadrop, take your variant tag, and display it in their hideout. Do you like this feature, yes or no? And welcome in, Shots. I'm glad you're here. So, yeah, that was the first question, was, as variants with our Visor Cortexes, the scenario was a player can kill you and take your tag and display it in their hideout. Do you like this feature, yes or no? The next question we put up was, let me scroll up here on my feed. This was for everybody, variants and claws alike. This one said, if you could only have one of the following gadgets in Deadrop, which one would you think would be the best or most fun? And those were an item extraction balloon, a wingsuit, a grappling hook, or a cloaking device. So we got the results for that. The next question was, again, I'm scrolling up to look at my feed here. This one was also for all players of Deadrop. It says you can only pick one. What feature should be in Deadrop? And the choices were go up zip lines rather than only down, have a redeploy mechanic, have manual sector shutdowns, or in-game item trading. So we got the results for that. We're going to cover that too. And then this most recent one from yesterday was, in Deadrop, when it comes to character movement, what game should Deadrop's movement emulate the most? And the 4 choices were Escape from Tarkov, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, and Hunt Showdown. So a lot of folks voted on these. It was actually really nice to see. I think I want to start off with the first question, which was about the variant tags, and we're not going to stay on each of these for too long, but I do want to get input from anybody that's willing to jump in. So the first one was, again, if you're a variant and you have your Visor Cortex, the question was, if a player kills you, should they be allowed to display your Visor Cortex in their hideout? Now, this is not the same as wearing it in game. I think the unanimous vote on that has been like, no, the variants are special. We don't want someone else being able to actively in-game display our Visor Cortexes. But the question of letting other players display it as a trophy in their hideout only, that's where this refers to. So a whopping 84% said, yes, I like the idea of this feature. And so, yeah, Shots or Brandon or anybody else that's joining, if anyone wants to request to speak and throw in some feedback on that and what your perspective is, feel free. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk a little bit about it just from my own perspective. So, yeah, I think that having the Visor Cortex is very special. The developers went out of their way to code it into the game, like, 10,000 unique visor cortexes that are, unique to us, the player, that we get to display in game. I mean, it's almost unheard of, to my knowledge, to have a cosmetic that's unique to a player that can be displayed in game that way. Mostly cosmetics are bought on a store or something like that. Or if it's something like CSGO, you can trade items. Rocket League's another one, you can trade items and, display cosmetic items and things like that. But with Deadrop, these founders passes, these NFTs, and these visor cortexes are pretty special. So yeah, I definitely don't want other players to be able to wear it in game. But I personally agree with the 84% of folks that it is something that if another player takes, kills me in game and takes my tag and they want to display it as a trophy on their wall, like, I really like that feature a lot. Seeing variants in game is going to be so rare. The further along this development goes, it's going to get even more and more rare to see one of us out in the wild, and to get to run into a player. It's going to get to a point to where to even run into a variant is going to be kind of an exciting thing. On top of that, if you're able to take them down and get their tag, then yeah, like even me as a variant, like if I see a dev or another variant, like, yeah, I want to take them down and add their tag to my collection. And most variants seem to kind of agree with this, as again, the poll was, the sample size was 74 votes. So out of those 74 votes, 84% said yes and 16% said no. So that's kind of where that's at. I've heard the developers talk about this too. It seems to be kind of a direction they want to go with it. And look, it is pre-alpha, folks. Remember, Deadrop is in a pre-alpha state. We have the upcoming Snapshot 6. They are still probably more than a year away from what would be a beta, but development is constantly changing. So who knows, right? This is what it is today. This could very well change in the future. I always like to add that disclaimer. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Oh, hold on. We got a request. Looks like Shots requested. Let's get Shots on board and get some feedback from Shots. All right. It's all yours, brother. How are you? I think I can hear you.
Hello?
Yep, there we go.
Okay. Sorry if it doesn't sound great. I'm currently in a car, but along the lines of being able to display your variant kills in your hideout, I absolutely love the idea. At the same time, while I want to have everybody's variant ID and display it on my wall, I don't want anyone to have mine. So I think it's an awesome feature, and I'm going to do everything I can. If you kill me and take my tag, I'm going to make sure I come back and I stop you. And that's the way I look at it. For me, it just adds a whole nother level of competitiveness to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for that input. Yeah, it is kind of this interesting double-sided thing, right? It's like, yeah, I want all the trophies and all the loot, but I want to be selfish and not give mine up. And then yeah, and Deadrop is a very interesting game, being as it's an extraction game where, yeah, right now. So for those that don't know, Snapshot 5, the current one we're in now, the current build of the game, they have a respawn mechanic where you get basically 2 extra lives and you come back as a sin. We completely expect this to change in the future and probably be iterated on many, many times. But what's interesting is, like Shots was saying, is you have this interesting mechanic where so the way it works is the first time you die, you drop your variant tag, but after that, you don't anymore. So if you want that tag, you got to go find that player and, you got to hunt them down if you want it back, right? So you only kind of, it does create that sense of competitiveness, and I totally understand. And I kind of agree where you're coming from. I do kind of want to see, okay, how do I get the most tags, but keep everybody from getting mine, right? And that'll come down to kind of like player skill and how competitive you want to be. For me personally, I'm more of a casual player, so I'm not so much worried about if somebody gets my tag. I mean, at the same time, I'm going to try to keep people from getting it. but I understand at my skill level personally, like, so I don't worry about that piece of it so much. But at the same time, I do want to chase down and collect all the tags that I can, and I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so like, I mean, my tag's gonna be out there. I'm gonna get killed. Someone's gonna get out with my tag. That doesn't bother me. I'm not gonna make it easy for that person. And if I'm being quite honest, for Snapshot 5 right now, I have more of my tags than I have of anybody else's tag, because I want to say I'm sitting at 71 of my own tag, and the closest second I think I have 45 of Kairos. So there's quite a gap there. And, you know, anytime I can get my tag and stop someone else from getting it, I'm going to.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And you know, it's kind of a way to gauge like how many times you denied somebody your own tag if you have a bunch of your own, right? So that makes that's kind of a cool way to kind of gauge. It's kind of like an accomplishment in of itself, right? It's because like, yeah, I got my own tag, but but at least I got it and not somebody else. So it's kind of this. It's almost like this unintended achievement, right? You know, you're playing Deadrop, you're doing your thing, you're collecting tags, and then you come across a bag that you didn't realize it until you opened it, but then you open it and you're like, oh, that's mine. Oh, cool. Hey, great. Now let me get the heck out of here so somebody doesn't come and take it. So, yeah, that's really cool. I do want to move on to the next one, though. The next question here. So, and Shots, thank you for that. I appreciate it. We're going to move on to the next question here, which was the next poll we did was for variants and claws. So this is for all Deadrop players. And it said you could only have one. I know I want to apologize to the folks out there. I made you pick one. I only let you pick one of these. So it says if you could only have one of these gadgets in Deadrop, which one do you think would be the best or most fun? So 91 people voted on this one. That was the largest interaction we had with any of the polls we've done so far. And the grappling hook won out with a whopping 47% of the votes. So the items were an item extraction balloon. So like think like if you have a piece of gear or loot that you just really want to get out of the match quick but still continue to play, you could use theoretically this item extraction balloon to like send it out to your stash, you know, and kind of like a one-time use. Then we had a wingsuit, which we've talked about this in the community at length in multiple discussions with multiple creators. The wingsuit is by far a huge talking point, and that one actually came in second place at 21% of the vote. And then the grappling hook, and then I put cloaking device also. And the reason I put the cloaking device is because, well, it is a gadget, and we've seen it in other games like Halo and things like that. And most recently with the Snapshot 6 teaser, these AI cleaner entities seem to have cloaking tech. We don't know exactly how that's going to work yet, but I wanted to add it to the poll. And anyway, the grappling hook won out. Again, with 91 votes, the grappling hook with a landslide, 47%. So people are really excited at the prospect of getting a grappling hook to get that mobility, that vertical option to move around the map, right? Because right now we have zip lines and you can just jump off 7 stories and grab ledges because grip strength is OP, which is great. But the grappling hook is very exciting. And I've seen a lot of people talk to like, well, yeah, I would want the grappling hook, but only if it also allows you to kind of swing around like Spider-Man or something. So you know how the mechanics of a grappling hook work is we've seen work differently in different games. So it's not just the hook itself, it's like how does it work, you know, with player movement. So but that was the most popular one for sure. And I kind of don't blame folks because again, right now we have zip lines and we got grip strength, but we don't really have a way to quickly go up the map, which for Sector 3 specifically is interesting because the deep freeze mechanic rises from the bottom and goes upward. It forces you up the map. So if you're in a tight spot with the freeze hitting you, it would be fantastic to have a grappling hook to quickly ascend multiple levels, you know. And I also agree that I think that it shouldn't be a permanent thing. Like there should be limited uses. So I don't know, Shots, if you what are your thoughts if you've got a moment?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as that poll goes, I definitely agree. I want the grappling hook. I feel like we're playing a vertical extraction shooter, and like you said, there's a limited number of ways or a limited number of spots to go up at any given point, depending on where you are in Sector 3. And a grappling hook would completely change that and add an entire another level of verticality to it, especially with possibly being able to go multiple levels up. I I really don't want it to turn into Spider-Man though. I do not want to swing on it. I want it to pull you to where you shoot it. I don't want to, have a pendulum effect where I can just swing across the map, jump off, and grab a ledge. I think it should be more of a vertical thing, and I think swinging from it adds a level of horizontal gameplay that we just really don't need.
Yep, I 100% agree. I like the swinging bit doesn't really bother me, but at the same time, I kind of agree with what you're saying. And I think for context, if there's a game that I could compare a grappling hook to in the way we're talking about, if anybody has played the most recent Star Wars Jedi Survivor game, the Ascension cable in that game is exactly what we're describing here. Whatever direction you shoot it, it's going to pull you in that direction, and that's it. There's no swinging. There's no Spider-Man. It's like even if you point it straight across you, it's just going to pull you straight across. Or if you point it up, it's going to pull you straight up, and that's kind of it, right? And I agree. That's kind of what I would like it to be. I don't need it to be like where you're doing gymnastics and flying around the map. I mean, and even if they did decide to do it that way, as long as it couldn't be spammed, because I'll say this, my personal viewpoint is if there's a grappling hook, whatever way they decide to do it, whether it's full on Spider-Man or more, line of sight based, I think I don't want it to be something that could be spammed. Like, so if you find one, let's say you find one on the ground loot or something, and like, okay, you pick it up, boom, you have like one, maybe three uses total, right? Once you've used it, you've burnt it. It's like grenades, right? You throw a grenade, it's it blew up, it's gone. So I would like to, that's how I would balance it if it were me, but that's just me. But at the same time, 47% of the vote with 91 votes say they want a grappling hook of some kind in Deadrop. And I think that's going to be something super popular. The next two on the poll were the wingsuit and the extraction balloon, and they were very close. So the wingsuit had 21% of the vote, and the item extraction balloon had 20% of the vote. So they were only different by a percent. And I find that pretty interesting because we haven't talked a lot about the item extraction balloon idea. I did propose this over a month ago in the Discord, and it got some good conversation. And it is a pretty interesting idea, but that one I think would be a little bit more of a challenge to balance because when we're talking about items, eventually this game's going to have NFTs in it that are worth money. So getting someone to get a quick extract on an item, you got to look at the fairness of that, and I'm sure the developers will be going and looking at everything. I don't know if we'll ever see an item extraction balloon though, so I don't want to get my hopes up for that one too much. So all right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We got two more of these, and then we can kind of do some freeform stuff. So this one was another pick only one type of poll. So this one was for everybody, all Deadrop players. It says you can only pick one. What feature should be in Deadrop? And it was go up zip lines, have a redeploy mechanic, manual sector shutdown, or in-game item trading. Now, let me kind of clarify a couple of things here. So going up zip lines, like I talked about earlier, right now we can go down zip lines, but we cannot go up zip lines. Again, I'll reference Jedi Survivor as the zip lines in that game allow you to go up and down. The redeploy mechanic, now this one's I'm not surprised this got the least amount of votes because it's not super specific. So right now for Deadrop, they have a respawn mechanic where you get 2 extra lives. So redeploy in Deadrop's current form doesn't make the most sense. I think this is going to be something that will be more relevant as the game gets bigger and they introduce the car, whatever that's going to be, where we have multiple sectors and you can spawn in at different points. And then, are they going to keep the respawn mechanic? We don't know the answer to that right now. I think that's going to be something that's going to be iterated on probably many times as it goes along. Now, manual sector shutdown. So for people that might be new to Deadrop or haven't played a whole lot, so a sector is like a map, a section of the map, which is what we have now, Sector 3. And we might be getting a new one for Snapshot 6. That's to be determined. But every sector will have a unique shutdown mechanic. Right now for Sector 3, they have the deep freeze, which literally it's like the ground is lava, except it's ice. And, it constantly rises and forces you vertically towards the top of the map. So manual sector shutdown, the idea of that is like, can we, the player, manually activate a sector shutdown with, certain conditions, right? And that's kind of where I was going with that. I think a lot of people figured that out with the poll. That got 28% of the vote. And then the last one on the poll was in-game item trading. And this is the one that won. So with 40 votes, the in-game item trading won with 40% of the vote. So that was a big majority there. In-game item trading, I think I also would like to have it, but this one also is going to be really interesting to see how the game evolves, right? I think it's a little bit early. We don't know what the NFT integration is going to look like yet. But just in general speaking, if we're talking about, hey, I got an extra AR with this skin on it, like, can I give it to another player? I think the answer should be yes. Shots, what do you think about any of this stuff? Redeploy mechanic, manual sector shutdown, in-game item trading. What's your thoughts?
So, redeploy mechanic, if we're talking something similar to the Sin system, I like the idea of it. I feel like it's a good twist on the extraction shooter to where when you come in, if you die, you're not just out of the match right away. If we're talking, I don't know. I know we're going to see the Sin system change, and I'm sure we're going to see it change drastically, but I'd like to keep it somewhat similar to what we have now. I think it's a really good system of what we have now. Sure, it needs tweaks here and there, but yeah, that's where I'd go with that one. We had the in-game market. That, I think a lot of people don't realize it, but I think a lot of people are asking for a market very similar to what Tarkov has, because in there you have in-game traders where you can buy, sell, and trade, barter with them, and everything has a set value that fluctuates over time depending on the game's economy. And then you also have an interconnected market that they call the flea market, where you can actually buy, sell, and trade to other players. I think we'll get something really close to that. I just think that the NFT integration with it, I feel like that will be done outside of the game itself. I don't think that'll be an in-game market where, like, you can walk up to, a button or something to interact with in the hideout and start trading NFTs. I think all that is going to be handled outside of the game, somewhat probably like on OpenSea, how the Founders Passes are done now. And then, what were the other two you had?
So the other two was manual sector shutdown and then going up zip lines.
So going up zip lines, I feel like it's a good idea, and we talked about that a bit last week on how they would have to balance it if you have someone going up and someone going down at the same time. We talked about, if you collide with each other, maybe you both fall. We talked about being able to maybe hop off of it and grab something else and deke someone out so that they jump and fall to their death. I think going up zip lines is going to come. I think that's pretty much set for this point. I think maybe we'll see it come in, we'll use it, and then maybe the next snapshot after it's introduced, we'll see it go so they can tweak it and rework it, or maybe it'll get eliminated entirely depending on how it plays. As far as manual sector shutdowns, I love the idea of it. And I know Rob talked about it during his AMA. The only thing that I worry about with that and balancing that is I don't think you should be able to just, like, run to the same spot every map and, press a button and, oh no, the sector's shutting down. And the way I think you would balance that is maybe like you said, meeting certain criteria or conditions where, maybe you have to have a key card to get into a room to start the shutdown, or maybe when you start the sector shutdown, it starts and then it cuts off at a certain point, and now it's used for the rest of that match. And I feel like a lot of how those could function are going to come down to how each individual sector plays gameplay wise.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of good feedback. I really like that idea too. I think manual sector shutdowns should be possible. I think it should be difficult. And I think there's a couple of ways they could accomplish it. One, you could either introduce conditions, like you said, maybe an access card or something else. Maybe there's like a really rare chance of a key card or something popping up in a loot cache or land on the world loot, or maybe we have to take it from a really difficult AI, or they could introduce like, all right, cool, there's a way to shut down the sector, but you have to find a special kiosk, and maybe this kiosk is a random spawn in the map somewhere. I kind of like, maybe it should be a combination of both, honestly. I kind of like, so it kind of depends, right? If you have a kiosk, okay, I find the kiosk, but maybe I still have to have whatever the key card is, and how difficult they make that to obtain, could be balanced. But yeah, like I like the idea that if you work hard enough to get it and you find the kiosk or the key card or whatever it is, that, you can really get the drop on some unsuspecting combatants. I really like that idea. So now that we've covered that, we got one last poll to get to here. And this one was just finished up this morning. And this one's important. This one's really a big deal. And I definitely want to talk about this one because this whole episode is going to go back on the YouTube channel. It'll be shared in the Discord later. And but this poll is about movement. So the question was, when it comes to character movement, what game should Deadrop's movement emulate the most? And the 4 choices I gave were Escape from Tarkov, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, and Hunt Showdown. There were 56 votes, sample size, and the resounding winner was Apex Legends. So out of the out of the 56 votes, 46% of people think that Deadrop's movement should be a lot closer to Apex Legends. For those that haven't played Apex Legends, Apex is very fast. It is easily the fastest on this list. So I'm actually really kind of surprised by this one personally, because while I do appreciate the fast movement, it's an interesting dynamic, because the developers have said more than once that, this game should not be too fast. Like Doc has even said it many times, like this doesn't need to be this super fast run and gun. It needs to be methodical. You need to think about your environment. He's real big on map design and, using the world in a tactical way for your decision making and everything. So, to have, with just playing Snapshot 5 and playing Deadrop thus far, like the idea of moving as fast as Apex Legends in the current map and the current way the game works is kind of would be nuts. I mean, the geometry of the map just, I mean, it's not that it wouldn't allow it, but it would feel too fast in my opinion. Now, that being said, overall, I do have a lot of critiques about the movement in Deadrop currently. And this is this is where we get into that conversation of like, this is a pre-alpha, it's a game that's being iterated on. A lot's going to change. And I think movement is a big one that will change over time. How fast it gets, we don't know. But, Shots, talk to me about what your feelings are about this. I'm not going to say I'm torn. I'm definitely leaning more towards like movement and Deadrop needs to be faster. I don't know if it needs to be that fast. What do you think?
So, well, I saw that, and I'll be honest, I voted for the Apex style of movement too when I saw your poll. However, I don't think it needs to be as fast as Apex. I think it needs to be as fluent as Apex. I don't want to see. I don't want COD movement. I feel like that would be detrimental to the game. I feel like the last few years, COD movement has just been abysmal. But I'd be okay if we saw something similar to Escape from Tarkov, where it's methodical. You have to think about your decisions and what you're going to do, how you're going to play certain situations. I think all of that is, a solid movement base for an extraction shooter. And I don't need to be going 100 miles per hour throughout the map. And I feel like a lot of people's opinions on it being as fast as Apex right now comes from the lobby count. I mean, right now we're getting, if we're lucky, we're getting 5 to 10 man lobbies at night. And it leaves such an open hole of a map that we can go anywhere we want, do whatever we want, as fast as we want, and there's no repercussions for it. And then as soon as we get into a fight, everything slows down. And I think what we're going to see is as the player count goes up and as AI are introduced, you're not going to have that freedom on the map anymore. You're going to have to be more methodical. Sure, you can still sprint around, change your angles, find your loot quick. But once once you hear someone around that corner, you're going to have to slow down and you're really going to have to think about how you're going to play it, how you're going to take angles. It's not always going to be just go, go, go. You're going to have to stop and weigh your options. That's just.
Yeah, so I totally hear where you're coming from, and again, I think this plays right into what we were saying earlier about it kind of just depends on the evolution of the game. To get more laser focused, I know that a lot of the critiques on the current movement have been talked about. Even the developers have talked about, movement and controls, whether that's mouse and keyboard or on controller, are a big priority for them. How fluid the movement is very important to them. And it is, I'm expecting some changes there for the next snapshot for sure. I agree. I don't need it to be as fast as Apex, but I do want the fluidity. I want strafing to be really good. I want, especially with, Deadrop and how the geometry of the map works and the verticality of it. Like, there's just so many nooks and crannies. I mean, there's plenty of open areas too, but like, once you find that combatant and you engage and, you're shooting each other, so this was like my critique on the movement for the current build, which is the game's character animation startup and stop has these, like, it interrupts the movement. Like when you're transitioning from sprint to walk to crouch to jump, and those different movement types, as you transition from one to the other, all your momentum dies, and it's like it hard stops and restarts really quickly. But that hitch in between animations and movement is very noticeable. So especially on controller. I don't know if it is on keyboard and mouse. I admittedly don't play mouse and keyboard, but like I said, that, if you're sliding, or if you're walking and you try to sprint and then you stop sprinting to try to shoot something, like, all momentum just dies, and that to me is one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I play mouse and keyboard. I haven't touched controller yet. I I kind of just haven't taken the time to launch the game through Steam to try out the controller and see how it feels. But I can tell you now, playing mouse and keyboard, you have the same issues. And when you really notice it is when, like, you're sprinting and you try and take more of a sharp turn. It's not like you slow down or, you make that turn smooth. It's your momentum completely dies and you start walking. And that's a really bad feeling. And another thing that I've noticed about the movement when it comes to stuff like that is if I'm running and I'm coming like through a doorway or something, if I even like brush against the wall, the movement speed drops. You go straight back to walk too. So there's definitely some kinks to work out there, and I think it's just going to come over time. I think it's something they're definitely very aware of, and I think over time we're just going to see it improve more and more.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. That's very accurate, and this has also been echoed throughout the community. And again, for the listener, these are not new things that we just brought up. These are just kind of a reiteration to add context to what the polls results were. You know, having Apex Legends style movement. I agree with Shots. I think the general consensus of the people voting in this poll is it's not, maybe it is about the speed also, but really it's the fluidity. You know, Apex Legends is very polished with its movement. I mean, I don't think anything's perfect, but Deadrop, yeah, the talk about movement came up when Snapshot 5 launched. You know, I mean, we've been talking about this for a few months now, and again, I've personally heard developers talk directly about this. You know, shout out to the developers over at Midnight Society. They work very hard. They're very passionate, and they do listen to the community and the variants. And so I'm certain we're gonna see a night and day difference in Snapshot 6. I mean, and I mean that in the context of thus far, Midnight Society has very much over delivered every time they do a snapshot. And even 402 himself, Robert Bowling, has said that, you know, he's even asked him to exercise a little chill, and they told him to get out. So they're very excited. They're working so hard, and we really appreciate all that they're doing for the game. It's we're all super pumped, man. It's only another week or so away. July 11th is the reveal for the release of Snapshot 6. We're all super excited about it. A little bit of a shorter one today, folks. I just wanted to go over these poll results, share them with you all, the community, because you all voted with it. I really appreciate all the participation with this. I'm going to continue to do this. I think this is a great way to generate conversations for these roundtables every Friday. Just a reminder, you know, if you're just tuning in or if you're listening to this on YouTube later on, we do these Twitter spaces called Variant Roundtable, all about Deadrop, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you ever want to tune in live when it happens and join the discussion, all voices are welcome to come join and talk about the game and what we're having fun with. This series is going to continue. I'm pretty much decided that, you know, this has been a success thus far. Everyone seems to really like it. So have your voices heard. Come join the Variant Roundtable every Friday at 1 p.m. That's going to pretty much do it. The last couple plugs I have are for Variant Intel, our podcast that we do every week. We have Variant Intel later today at 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be live on my channels on HELMETFIRE YouTube and kick.com/HELMETFIRE. Again, that's going to be at 6 p.m. Eastern. And our special guest this week is none other than Vintage Clash. So I hope to see you all there live for Variant Intel episode 13 with our special guest Vintage Clash. Remember, if you're on YouTube, to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any other future content. And with that, thank you to Shots and anybody else that joined in to listen. I'm going to get out of here, and we're going to be back next week with a new Variant Roundtable, and I hope to see you all there. Otherwise, we'll see you in the tower. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one, Helmet. Thank you.